following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys! This is Mick Shots. Streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now, here are Bill Jones, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
And welcome to football season.
Yeah.
Mick Shots inside the SWBC podcast studio. The team is set for all intents and purposes. We've got college football tonight. We've got college
Cowboys
football
on the field.
on Saturday.
We got Cowboys
We've
on
got
the field.
the Giants next week.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there are football players on a football field right now.
On a beautiful, beautiful Thursday
Everybody's
morning.
looking outside. Everyone at the Star is looking outside.
75 degrees. How about that?
75 degrees, is that what it is?
Well, that's what it was, I think, when practice began.
Rising quickly.
It's rising to 79 degrees right now, and it is a balmy 97 for the high today. The cold front came through, and so they didn't need to change practice and go at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Or
They
start
could have
the
done-
press conference at 7:30.
Yeah, and you were up bright and early. For
I
it.
was.
So what time did you leave the house?
I left the house at 6:32.
You beat the rush hour traffic.
I did.
Here. Very good.
If you're
Because-
before 7, you're good.
You know what,
You're before 7 a.m.
What occurred to me is my patience driving to work got ruined in training camp because I walked 5 minutes to work in Oxnard.
Like from your room to the field.
That's right. Yeah.
You can still have some traffic problems there.
No.
If it's a lot of people walking.
No one's in my way. I forgot about the traffic, especially since school started, right?
Speaking of training camp, I am approaching today with a clear mind because I stayed late at work last night and I got my expense report done from 2 weeks in Oxnard. That's been hanging over my head for 3 weeks now.
Don't you hate it because you start
I know.
procrastinating, right?
Yeah, and I'm sitting there. Okay, I got to prepare for these preseason games. So I'm not going to do because I knew it was at least a 4-hour process when you're,
And you should have stayed up last night because it was a full moon anyway.
Well, so I got working on it at work last night, and I stayed there and got it done. And so it is really football season for me.
So do you think the Cowboys got all their roster manipulations done?
That's a question for you.
No, I'm asking you guys. Are you happy with what they did?
Oh, that's a different question. You asked.
Oh, are they done?
Now, if you're asking if we're happy, then that's up to you as well.
Oh, okay.
Because if Mickey ain't happy, ain't none of
we
us
ain't happy. That's right.
And there still could be some jockeying for position, and there could be some things. But why don't you explain what's going on with the practice squad right now? And then we actually need to get into the cuts themselves. But
Right.
Explain what's happening with the C.J. Goodwins of the world on the practice squad.
Yeah, so C.J. Goodwin, they put on the practice squad. He's a vested veteran, so he didn't have to go through waivers, and they basically told him, look, don't go anywhere. We're going to pay you. We're putting you on the practice squad. We'll use the first 3 weeks. You'll be called up to play in the game as part of the 48.
And you get your full salary if you get called up each week.
Right, exactly. And then what they're kind of playing the odds that maybe somebody gets hurt, and you can put him on after his 3 call-ups. You can put him on the 53-man roster, and this allows them to keep a younger guy that they didn't think would get through waivers. And having said that, the only guy they wanted to keep that didn't get through waivers was Isaiah Land. The Colts claimed him on their 53, so they didn't get the young kid through that they were grooming to be a linebacker / pass rushing defensive end. So I think that was the one thing that they probably regretted, thought it was going to happen, but it certainly didn't. So now they had some other guys that I think they would have signed to the practice squad, but they chose to sign with other team practice squads. Wide receiver Dennis Houston signed to the Giants practice squad. Jabril Cox probably was looking around and going, all right, they're not thinking much of me. I'll try this in Washington. And then Will Greer, I think another guy was playing the odds because McCarthy had said the day before that they would be willing to sign him to the practice squad and have 4 quarterbacks. But he chose to sign with Cincinnati on the practice squad. And I think what he was looking at was, at the time, Joe Burrow still wasn't practicing.
That changed.
But he did yesterday.
Yeah.
And so other than that, the only other backup they had was Jake Browning.
Oh, and that's the other part of it is he's competing. Once he learns the system and, a month from now or whatever, then he could be the primary backup for Joe Burrow.
And if Burrow wasn't ready, Browning would have to start, and they would have to elevate him.
Because they let Trevor Siemian go, a guy with more experience.
Yeah. So
there was more of an opening at the end in Cincinnati than there was anywhere else.
Yeah, there was no opening here, right? He was going to be just the practice squad unless there was multiple injuries. So those were the 4 guys I think they wanted back, or would have brought back maybe. But
they could be in a situation in Cincinnati too, that, depending on what they decide to do now, especially with Burrow's injury concern, where they may elevate Greer for the first 3 weeks of the season from the practice squad, so they have a third quarterback.
And
actually, no, that doesn't work. You can't do it. You can't.
No.
It doesn't.
You can't
the third
elevate.
Quarterback rule doesn't work.
Has
from
to
the
be on the
practice squad.
53.
Yeah, he's got to be on the 53.
But still, if Burrow, hadn't practiced, say he practices today. Now I'm assuming because it's Joe Burrow with 3 practices next week, he's ready to start. But what if he's not? So I think he was looking, financially at it and opportunity signing with Cincinnati.
And so let's go back to cut day on Tuesday, and what was both of you's take on what happened, and any surprises as far as that goes?
Before Spag goes, I have this surprise player. I don't think we've talked about him. He wants to break a generational curse. Cowboys safety
Wanye Thomas.
Mm-hmm. Great story.
Well, he was on the practice squad last year.
Okay. Well, he wanted to make the 53-man roster.
Yeah. And he did. Mm-hmm. A big safety.
Yeah.
That is bigger than I remembered when I talked to him in training camp. Mm-hmm. He's like 6'1". I think they listed him at 215.
Yep.
He looks heavier than that. I mean, this is a strong-looking guy.
He's a young 215.
Yes.
Because I'm 215.
And
I don't look like him.
It's a different 215.
Yeah.
That's like when I interviewed Dak, and I asked him before we interviewed or sit down during training camp. He said he was at 225 pounds, 228, something like that. I'm like, how come your 228 looks different than my 228?
Looks a lot different, yeah.
Anyway, so Wanye, they had him playing a lot of safety, but also in the nickel defense, moving him up into like a linebacker spot.
But did you know about his story? Did you know about the
I didn't know the part about his dad burning down their house.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
But he had played at Georgia Tech, played well, and I saw that they were kind of using him some on returns. Mm-hmm. And so when this was the first couple days of training camp, and I asked him, I said, so did they use you on returns at Georgia Tech? And he goes, oh, yeah. I said, were you good at it? He goes, go look at my tape. Probably said video. Right. And I said, okay, will do. So I went and looked. It was pretty impressive, right? He had a couple returns for touchdowns.
Nice.
And so a guy that big and that fast. So I told him yesterday, I went and looked. You were right. Yeah. So I
think it was early in camp. You may have been with me talking with John Fossil about Wanye, and it was almost as if Fossil didn't want the cat.
Yes,
the
yes.
cat to be let out of the bag.
I guess that's why the story was lost on me.
He was one of those that, okay, we got into the practice squad last year, and you could tell he was really excited about what he could do on special teams, that he could be a core special teams guy. And so he was hesitant at first to talk about him, and then in the course of the he's such a Fossil's such a talkative guy. He's so excited about
Fossil
him
could not help himself.
Yeah, and so he was going to play in these preseason games. Word was going to get out on him. And sure enough, the first preseason game, first drive of the game, he picks off Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. So the cat's out of the bag.
That's nice.
Good guy, and a willing special teams player too, by the way. So
but the amazing thing about it is and he talked about it the other day, you look at this safety group, and you talk about no room in the end, and there doesn't appear to be any room at the end there. Yeah. But with your starting trio, with him and Marquise Bell, they've got not only special teams value, but they can go play down in the box and sub packages too.
So when I talked to Dan Quinn the other day, I said, little thin at linebacker. You only got 4 on the team. I said, what happens if Van Der Esch or Damone Clark get hurt? And he goes, well, we'll play Parsons more at linebacker.
We talked about this Tuesday.
Yeah. And he said also that was the plan anyway, even though he did a lot of pass rush stuff in training camp. They were thinking of using him more at linebacker. And he said, and then we got our couple big safeties that can help us at linebacker.
And we talked about that Tuesday as well.
So he confirmed what we talked about on Tuesday. So
which isn't to say that if there was an injury that was multiple weeks, that there are veteran inside linebackers out there that they could go to.
Right, exactly. And Harper actually played pretty well in that last preseason game. Now, they kept him for special teams purposes, but he did all right. So anyway, so with only 4 there, it's like, ooh, that's pretty iffy because you usually want to keep 6 linebackers. But I didn't think they had 6 to keep on what they had now. So,
okay.
Because they gave up on Jabril Cox.
Yes, they did.
Okay, we need to get to the cornerback.
Yes.
Let go. But first off, Hunter Lipke made the team.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. and when we convened on Friday, someone in the room said my pick to click was Hunter Lipke in that game. When I said that, I didn't think he would click to the point that he would make the 53-man roster.
I thought you
No, I meant in that game because there wouldn't be anybody that was on the 53-man roster basically playing in that game.
True.
And he goes into that game and he makes the 53 coming out of that game.
And we talked about it. I think they finally brought it up in the press conference today about how Mike McCarthy used John Kuhn as a fullback, one-back, special teams guy.
He made the Pro Bowl.
And he burned the Cowboys pretty badly, too, in one game, that he likes a fullback. And so this kid was versatile enough, and he showed it in the game, that they said, all right, not only can they use him as a lead blocker, a one-back, a guy that can catch the ball, but I'll guarantee you he'll be a very willing special teams guy, too. So,
And he's got his teammate here from North Dakota State.
For 1 year, they were together, North Dakota State.
One game.
Trey Lance, right?
Was it one game?
One game.
It was one
That's
game
right.
in the COVID
year.
Never mind on that one.
So, if you look at the 53 as they did it, and then made the adjustments yesterday, there really wasn't a surprise. Was there?
Sean McEwen, we sat here on Tuesday and said, well, you started going down the tight ends. I said, you keep him 4 tight ends.
Right.
You keep him 4 tight ends. And McEwen's on the practice squad.
Right.
But to the point of Lipke, he can do some of those things that they were using McEwen as in the backfield, or he can be trained to do that.
Right.
As a lead blocker or an H-back type in the backfield too. But McEwen is here to stay for the season. He's
Yes.
just on the practice squad
And
to
I
start
think
things off.
maybe at some point last year or the year before, he was on the practice
Right,
squad
and
for a while.
here's the deal.
Was he?
Yeah, I think so.
Here's the
and then
deal.
they elevated him
I always thought
a
he
couple
was
times.
always on.
There are so many tight ends that are like McEwen, like others, that are out on the street as free agents right now that are going to get signed a week from now or whatever.
You make it sound so bad out on the streets.
No, I'm just saying
like
that.
the homeless.
I'm saying that you have the ability to get him to the practice squad because there are a whole bunch of options out there, and coaches like coaching the guys they've been coaching for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And so it was a good play, I think, by the Cowboys that he wasn't going to get picked up because there's an abundance of tight ends out there.
So
And if he did get picked up, you can find another one.
he started last season on the practice squad, and then they activated him October 29th.
you
So
go.
they're kind of doing the same thing with
Okay.
him this year. And the same thing with sort of the deal with C.J. Goodwin. You're thinking, okay, these guys are with us. We're telling them you're with us. Don't go anywhere. And then at some point, somebody gets hurt, and you have an opening on the practice squad. I was somewhat surprised, and I'm going to leave this to Bill, by the way, that they got something for Kelvin Joseph.
My guy, man, I'm gonna miss him.
Why are you giving it to me?
Because you're going to say Noah's last name
I'm gonna
properly.
Igbenogany.
Yes, and I got it right here.
It's actually easy.
Igbenogany.
It's actually, it rolls off the tongue very easily.
Igbenogany.
Igbenogany.
Yeah.
Igbenogany.
So what do you think of that? And Igbenogany
Is he any better than
he was a first
than
round.
Joseph?
He was a first round.
He was a
draft
first
pick
round
the year
pick,
before
not a
in
second.
2020,
and he doesn't have a CD out.
and he's
Yes, and he's out of Miami because that's where Joseph was going to do his rap stuff, right? In Miami.
Okay.
Didn't know that one. Yeah.
So when I answered the question on, I think, Twitter, X or whatever you want to call it, and I said it was trading a bag of peanuts for a bag of walnuts.
yeah, I saw that. That was pretty funny.
Pretty good, huh?
So is the guy any good then?
They didn't want him.
Well,
They wanted to
they
get
wanted-
something for him.
Yeah. They
Right.
didn't just release him.
I mean, it's like San Francisco. They didn't want Trey
Right,
Lance.
right.
He was going to be more than the third quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, oh, maybe we can get something for him.
So he just gave up on my boy, huh?
Yeah.
All that talent, all that.
And I'll tell you what,
Potential good plays.
just watching him out there,
Mm-hmm.
boy, he throws a pretty pass. And he's got it. Not only has he
Who
got
are we talking about?
Trey Lance.
Okay.
yeah, he's still.
I thought we were still talking about cornerbacks.
No.
Okay.
I was.
No, you said, and they got something for him.
Yeah.
I thought you meant San Francisco.
No.
Oh.
No.
I was on the wrong way.
Yes, you were.
I was like, Igbenogany is throwing passes out there. Why is he
Well,
out
no
there
wonder
throwing
they
passes?
got something for him. Yeah.
He's here already, too,
Is
by
he?
the way. No, Trey Lance. So I got to
Mm-hmm.
chat with him yesterday in the locker room, and it seems
I
like
got an
a
idea.
real.
I got an idea.
Take a break, and then we'll
and-
talk about Trey
right.
Lance.
And we're going to talk.
That wasn't your idea.
Lance,
That was
and I
not
got
your
something
idea.
to add on Noah Igbenogany too.
Okay.
Okay. And Mickey is going to say the name Noah Igbenogany when we
Igbenogany.
come back
Igbenogany.
here on Mick Shots.
Igbenogany.
Igbenogany.
We got it.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Back to Mick Shots.
Cape Post Roofing and Waterproofing, the official roofer of the Dallas Cowboys.
The official?
Official.
Official.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Now, who did the Cowboys trade for?
Igbenogany.
You stumbled there, but it's
good,
though.
Not
good.
Not Benogamy. It's
Benogany.
yeah. There you go.
Benogany.
Yeah.
Benogany.
Just call him Noah.
That's what I'm
Iggy.
I'm doing.
Oh, there you go. That's another
Iggy,
one there. And by the way, sounds like he is a high character guy, and he's more of an outside corner than a slot corner,
Which is what they were looking for.
Okay.
Because they figured they had enough guys in the slot.
No, that was the other significant thing that happened was that Jordan Lewis got activated from PUP. He did start starting the season on PUP, so he is on the 53, and we'll see if he's ready to go a week from Sunday against the Giants.
And if he's
Had you been looking at his progress at all?
Well, he's out there.
Yeah.
He's practiced these last 2 days. Yesterday they weren't in pads. Today they are.
Explain that about Deshaun Wright as well. He went on IR after he was on the 53.
Right.
So
And-
it's with
and Matt Waletzko
and Matt
did too.
Waletzko, and so they can return in 4 weeks from now.
But by leaving Lewis on the 53, even if he's not ready to play, they're betting on he's ready to play sooner than the 4 weeks he would have to spend on IR. And when you're on IR, you can't practice with the team. You can't be out there other than to do rehab. Really not supposed to be in meetings either.
And the significant thing on it was they had to claim they had to put him on the 53 because he did not participate in training camp.
Yeah.
He was on PUP
Right.
to start training camp, and so he could stay on PUP, regular season PUP, which would keep him out the first month of the season. But they feel strong enough about his rehab that he's going to return sometime within the next month.
He's running awfully well. The other guy they kept on the 53 that's not practicing is Donovan Wilson. He was out there doing his rehab.
What's wrong with Donovan?
It was a high hamstring strain, like almost right behind the knee where it
And it was like
attaches.
the first day.
Wait,
it
a
came.
high hamstring?
There's a word for the muscle there that I cannot pronounce.
Because I would think that high hamstring would be closer towards the buttocks area as opposed to down by the knee.
No, it's your hamstring, not your calf. I mean, I said hamstring.
Yes,
didn't
you
I?
did.
Calf.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
No,
There you go.
no,
Sorry.
no problem.
It was a high calf injury.
I hate those. Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's where the muscle is. Yeah.
And so I don't know if I'm thinking he's not practicing today. They would be hard pressed to say, okay, you get one padded practice next week and you're ready to play in the game on Sunday.
And so that's the other part of keeping the extra safeties too.
Right.
Is because Donovan Wilson, we don't know when he's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But they did keep, they kept Eric Scott, the young. This is still a young roster if you look at it. They kept all 8 draft choices, at least initially. We'll see where it goes from here.
Well, my pick to click was Bohanna. Was Bohanna on the list? Let me see.
No, he got cut, and I didn't see anybody claim him or sign him to a
That was my
practice
pick
squad.
to click.
All right, tell me about Trey Lance. You wanted to talk about Trey Lance.
Trey Lance, yes. So got a chance to just kind of talk casually with him yesterday. Seems like a really upstanding guy, good personality. When he did his interview the other day, he looked people in the eye, and he seems to just have a very good, healthy outlook on things. And he knew about the history of the team. He knew about, McCarthy with quarterbacks. And I was impressed with that part. And the other thing I was impressed with, if you go back and read what took place in San Francisco after they traded him, everybody couldn't say enough about him, how he handled the entire situation, from the head coach to the general manager to Kittle, the tight end, and even Garoppolo had really good things to say about him and basically said the guy just needs an opportunity he can play. So I was really impressed with him. You know what? He's sort of built like Dak. Mm-hmm. You know how Dak's got them thick legs? Yeah. Same thing. He's a little taller, and boy, does he have an arm. Now, I don't mean just throwing the ball. Yeah. He's got a huge arm, right? So, we'll see how it turns out. But first impressions, pretty good, at least from my standpoint.
I'll tell you what, let's take a break, and let's come back in just a moment here on Mick Shots.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way past postgame. Sunday night overtimes followed by Monday morning swagger. Brisket in the smoker. Miller Lite in the cooler. America's team playing America's greatest sport. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Back to Mick Shots.
The 2023 Dallas Cowboys season at AT&T Stadium is right around the corner, and limited single-game tickets are available now. Don't miss your chance to see your Cowboys live at AT&T Stadium when they host the NFC East rival Eagles, Giants, and Commanders, plus playing the Jets, Patriots, Rams, Seahawks, and Lions. Visit DallasCowboys.com/tickets or SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing provider of AT&T Stadium.
And welcome back to Mick Shots. Bill Jones, Mickey Spagnola, and Everson Walls. And the Cowboys have just announced this. Former Cowboys executive Gil Brandt passed away at the age of 91 this morning.
91 years.
As Nick Harris, I'm reading from Nick Harris's story on DallasCowboys.com. Gil as you all know, served as the vice president of player personnel for the Cowboys from 1960 to 1988. After graduating from the University of Wisconsin, Brandt first broke into scouting, working part-time for the Rams. 1958, first full-time opportunity with the 49ers before making the move to Dallas, take a job as the chief talent scout with the Cowboys. 28 years with the Cowboys, made an impact on scouting, still felt in the game today, credited for the introduction of computers in scouting and evaluation, along with the drafting of players such as Roger Staubach. Herschel Walker also credited for the undrafted pickups of Drew Pearson, Cliff Harris, and Everson Walls. Jerry Jones on the passing of Gil Brandt. We are so deeply saddened by the passing of Gil Brandt, a true icon and pioneer of our sport. Gil was at the very core of the early success of the Dallas Cowboys and continued to serve as a great ambassador for the organization for decades beyond that. His contributions cemented his spot in the Ring of Honor. He was my friend and a mentor not only to me, but to countless executives, coaches, players, and broadcasters across the National Football League, which rightfully earned him a spot in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, where his legacy will be celebrated forever. He was an innovator and set the standard for excellence in player acquisition. From the creation of the NFL Combine to revolutionizing the NFL Draft, Gil finished his over 6-decade NFL career with an eye towards the future of the league and teaching fans about the sport he loved as a radio broadcaster. Gil was as good a storyteller as it gets, with a memory as sharp as a tack. His dedication to and passion for this game left a lasting impact on generations of Hall of Fame players and coaches. There are very few people that have been able to have the kind of generational impact that he did. Gil was as dedicated to growing this league and sport as anyone ever was, and we are all grateful and better for it. Our hearts go out to Gil's wife, Sarah, his son, Hunter, and all of Gil's family and friends. And one of those guys he discovered, Everson Walls.
That's right, man. I just texted Doug Williams. He had no idea, because Gil was on the Black College Hall of Fame board. And so I saw him every year in Atlanta when we give out the awards for Black College Hall of Fame. So, yeah, he was always still connected to the HBCUs. I used to tease him all the time and tell him we were just like cheap labor for him. So he always let me unleash on his radio show whenever he had me on. And he was always a good sport about it. So, no, Gil Brandt, he will be missed. I just texted Dennis Thurman, Dexter Clinkscale, Michael Downs, and Bill Bates as well to let them know. And, of course, Dexter Clinkscale got back with me, said he was devastated as well. So, yeah, he will be missed. And, he was, in the end, he was trying to do the best he could, to make sure the HBCUs were recognized throughout the NFL.
By the way, Everson, the media is here this morning because the locker room's open. I think you should make your way over there, and I think it would be great for everyone to hear Everson talk about Gil.
Yeah, and Gil protected the Cowboys' money like it was his own.
Yeah.
If you talk to anybody that had to negotiate a contract with him, right? He was tough. But we had gotten word early in training camp that he was in bad shape and he was struggling. He had kind of gone down this last year to the point where he was not returning phone calls or he wasn't doing any more interviews.
Yeah.
So you knew it had to be bad if Gil Brandt didn't want to talk, right? Because that was, him and Larry Lacewell, two peas in a pod about talking and telling stories. And, he was...
he always wanted to help other people, too.
And he did. He did. I can tell the first time I ever had an interaction with Gil, it would have been the early 80s when I was working in Jackson, Mississippi. And I just out of the blue said, I need to talk to this Gil Brandt. And I called him, right? Left a message and was like, oh, well, it's the Cowboys, right? By God, he called me back. I forgot what the question was or what the story was. It was something about the draft. And he called back and gave me the time of day. And I was like, okay. And then when you get here, you better, if you ask him a question, you better carve out 10 or 15 minutes because it'll turn into another story, right? But he was, here's the hard part now. The people that know this organization from the 60s and it really into the 70s, they're no longer with us, right? The three guys that did the deal with Tom, Tex, and Gil, now Gil passed away. Really, the only guy to go to for historical questions is Joe Bailey, who was Tex's right-hand man as a vice president. And he's still sharp, and I forgot which documentary that just, Deep Blue, that just showed, he answered a bunch of questions on I think it was probably Chuck Hawley. But we're losing people that have the knowledge of the beginning of this franchise.
Now you got to go to some of the players. I mean, you got Roger and Drew Pearson, guys like that who were really there doing.
Drew's still pretty sharp.
Yeah, doing Tom's.
But some of the other guys are kind of, I mean, Chuck Hawley was a prime example. Wasn't healthy enough to attend the Pro Football Hall of Fame induction.
Bob Lilly's still.
Bob's still pretty sharp. Yeah. But yeah, it's a real shame.
And the other thing with Gil, and as Jerry alluded to in his statement there, I mean, active he was when most people are long past retirement age, all the way to 90 years old.
For 10 years, right, doing stuff with NFL radio and he was even writing.
And so involved in the draft, in the whole the draft process, and inviting players to whether it was in New York or one of the cities, and being such a part of it.
You remember he was in the mountains somewhere and he got shot at. You remember that?
No, I do not. No, yeah, he was on some fishing trip or something.
He and his wife were driving together. And
That's right.
A sniper.
Yeah.
Was shooting at people on the road.
Randomly.
Yeah. And Gil's like,
Didn't have anything against Gil.
No, nothing personal against Gil.
So Everson, tell us when you first met Gil and where, go back in the...
I remember my first conversation.
Yeah?
He had brought, I believe it was, can't remember if it was Wooten or if it was Jethro Pugh. Sent him down, because it was just going to be a free agent contract at Grambling. I was undrafted. I knew I wasn't going to get drafted after the first round. The first day was done. And they offered me $1,500 signing bonus. I'm like, okay, if I'm getting this crappy contract here, I was getting, I think it was $32,500 or something for the year. And $1,500 signing bonus. I said, look, I want more signing bonus. So he puts Gil on the phone. And Gil's just stonewalled me. And I got used to that. That was a conversation that went on. Went on for 13 years.
So that was 1981.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's when I started in my business.
That was the spring of.
So your pay in 1981 was $32,500.
$32,500.
My pay was $12,000 a year. I had to work 8 hours of overtime to get to per week to get to $12,000. I got paid $5.02 an hour as a college graduate.
You had to move out, though, right? You had to move out.
Out in Lubbock.
I actually had the luxury of staying with my mom.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I was on my own.
Rent.
So they gave.
But look at the difference. Here was the lowest possible paying job for a college graduate was my job.
Right.
Okay. And you, as an NFL player, were making only $20,000 more than I was.
That's right.
Golly.
And I was pretty good at what I did. You said you sucked in college. So.
That signing bonus was 3 times more than what Drew Pearson got.
That's true.
His was $500.
Yeah, he said he spent his all on the party that night.
No, here's what he did. He tells the story about they gave him $500, and he goes, and I had just enough gas to get to the hotel to sign the contract. And so I needed gas and decided that we were going to have a party at the dorm, right? So when he got home, he had just gotten married, and his wife goes, "How much did you get to sign?" And he goes, $250.
That's funny.
And I can't tell you how many guys told the story about the first. I think it might have been Walt Garrison talking about Gil, giving him a signing bonus. And he said, yeah, and it was so small. And he goes, and what Gil would do is he would pull all this cash out of his pocket. He goes, but they were all ones. So he acted like he had this big roll of money, right? And here's your signing bonus, right?
Right, but
there are so many Gil stories.
He was known for being a hard ass.
Yeah.
That's just,
and then he blamed it on.
We don't want to disrespect his legacy. He was known for being a hard ass.
He would blame it on Tex too. All the time.
Yeah, everybody
Tom.
passed the buck. Those three. Yeah, they passed the buck all the time between each other.
Danny White tells the story about when he first got here. For those first 4 years, he was the punter.
Yeah,
and so when he ended up getting the quarterback job after Roger retired in '80, he was still punting. And so in '81, he went to Gil and said, hey, I'm kind of doing two things here. He goes, don't you think I deserve a raise? And Gil said, well, we'll see. And he goes, and you're probably not punting this year. Well, he punted that year again.
Of course he did.
So they went through the same thing the next year. And Gil tells him, well, I think that's a good point. Go talk to Tom about it. Mm-hmm. So he went to talk to Tom about it, saying, I'm doing this and this, and I am the quarterback. And Tom goes, well, Danny, he goes, in my day, the more you can do to help a team win, the better off we're all at.
Oh, man.
And Danny goes, I had no answer.
They are so,
I had no answer.
But they were my introduction to corporate America.
Did you know of him before?
Of course,
the draft.
Did.
Like
of course,
growing
I grew
up here.
Yeah,
I knew who he was.
I was still mad at him for getting rid of. At that time, they just got rid of Rayfield Wright.
When they let him go at the end of his year.
I was a Cowboy fan. I knew all about the organization, so I knew what was going on, and I was very upset about that. At the time when I was at Grambling, I thought I was going to be a good football player. I thought I could probably make it to the next level. So, yeah, I knew all about the organization itself. By the way, Dennis Thurman of Thurman Steves just sent the RIP GB exclamation point with prayer hands. So everybody's sending in their condolences. But no, Gil Brandt, everybody knows it. I remember recently, I think, within the last 10, 15 years, talked with Charlie Waters about Gil Brandt. And they had done an interview together, Charlie and Gil. And Charlie's very intense. To this day, still very intense. And, Gil kind of makes light of the little tricks and stuff that he used to do back in the day. Well, Charlie was not happy about that. So Charlie's like, he's getting pissed off on the interview itself. This was like around 15 years ago. So, Gil, he left some marks. He left some stains on some people. I'd say some tire tracks on some people as he kind of rolled over us during the negotiations.
Charlie Waters is a good example, though, of a guy, Gil, he could see the ability, even if you played a different position or if you played a different sport, how it might be able to translate to the NFL. And Charlie Waters, who was a quarterback at Clemson, and he was, we link Charlie and Cliff together. Well, Cliff, of course, was an undrafted guy out of Ouachita Baptist. Well, Charlie was a third-round draft pick out of Clemson in 1970, 66th pick in the draft. But he converted over to safety.
He had to.
Right.
Well,
in the NFL.
You know what happened with him? His rookie year, it was cut down day, and Jim Myers at the time was the Turk. He would tell people they got cut, and he came in.
Oh God, Jim Myers is the worst person to have that job.
And he came in and told Charlie, "I'm sorry, Charlie, but you didn't make it."
Yep.
And Charlie Waters was devastated, right? What am I going to do the rest of my life? And he said this went on for a couple hours before he started packing his stuff up. And Myers comes back a couple hours later and he goes, Charlie, we made a mistake. We didn't cut you.
We made a mistake.
We made a mistake. we didn't cut you.
Right.
And Charlie said something, started cussing like, oh, you do that to me. And Meyer says, don't talk to me like that.
He's Sergeant Carter.
Right.
That's like sending Sergeant Carter from Gomer Pyle around to tell
And I'm
everybody
sure
they
Gil
just
had
got cut.
something to do with how they made the mistake of who they were cutting or whatever.
And to clarify on Waters, he was a quarterback to start his career at Clemson. Then he was an all-conference wide receiver.
Right.
And moved to defense.
Actually,
That
and then
I did not know.
You got the basketball players from Cornell Green to Preston Pearson was a college basketball
That's
player.
right.
You know.
So yeah, he definitely knew the athlete. Or Billy Joe Dupree. I mean, come on, he definitely knew
Everson
the athlete.
Walls.
I have a feeling.
And besides you, other HBCU guys too.
That's true. I got to say, I still don't think he thought I was going to make the team. I'm sorry. I cannot see him being that type of genius. And if he did think I was going to make the team, I surely should have been paid more money to entice me to come since he knew so much.
So we only have, we're out of time here.
Let me tell one more story. Okay. It's a typical Gil thing because he always knows somebody, right? Leroy Jordan, part of his signing bonus out of Alabama was he wanted this fancy kind of Cadillac car, something that he always wanted. And Gil goes, okay. So instead of getting the car, he probably saved money and got it from somebody he knew here. And he was going to drive it to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, to deliver it to Leroy Jordan. And somewhere in the middle of Mississippi, he's driving at night, and he hits a cow and totals the car, basically, right? And he was close enough to Mississippi State where he knew the head coach at the time or whatever, and they came and got him and put him up. And the next day, the police came because the guy who owned the cows was going to charge him for manslaughtering the cow, right? But because he knew the person at Mississippi State, they got him out of whatever trouble he was going to be in. He goes, but the worst part was I had to call Leroy and tell him about that car. We'll get it to you a little bit later. He totaled the car. Killed the cow. And he drove it there himself. He didn't hire somebody to go do it.
That's
right?
unusual.
Right?
That's when he was young.
Right?
That's when he was young.
But you just think of the 20 years from 1965 to 85 where the Cowboys were making the playoffs every year and the impact that Gil Brandt had on that.
And killing the draft. Mm-hmm. Because back in the day, the people in the NFL didn't think it was a big deal, the draft. Like they weren't prepared for it. He told me when he went into that first one in 1961, he said that everybody walked in with their Street and Smith magazines because it was the college preview, right? So they were picking names out of there. No one was scouting anybody, right? And he goes, and it was
Street and Smith magazine was like from the summer before,
right,
going into their senior year in college.
But the draft was in November, remember?
Right.
Oh, wow.
And he said, and back then, they didn't have like phone. Everybody wasn't hooked up to a phone, right? So when you drafted a guy, you had to go out in the hallway, get on the payphone, and so you had to show up for the draft with your Street and Smith and rolls of quarters so you can get on the payphone and make phone calls. And that's how they got a hold of guys. It's changed a little, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
Well, we're out of time here, but there's so many that we could go on and on.
I know.
I'm getting so many. Yeah. I put it on my family WhatsApp. Yeah. Everybody's so surprised. Major Cowboy fans in the family still. Yeah.
But what a legacy and what a guy. And
a reason why he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Because some of these stories that we're telling here, people are going to go in and say, oh, I remember this about that guy.
Mm-hmm. Thank God he went in before he passed.
Exactly.
All right, that does it for this edition of Mick Shots. Have a great holiday weekend. We're back next week. It's a regular season schedule, right, Mickey?
Oh, we are on Labor Day on Monday, aren't we, already?
It's Labor Day is Monday, that's right.
We're not doing Monday, are we?
I don't believe so.
Tuesday.
I won't be here Tuesday either. Yeah.
What? Season's starting.
All right, Gil Brandt.
Doesn't start till Wednesday for Everson. Cowboys Wednesday. All right, so that does it for this edition of Mick Shots. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
All right, R.I.P. Gil Brandt, and go Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!